Perfect. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to the long game. I'm Brent Schafer. Along with me is Tyler Pearson, and we are two certified financial planners talking about finance. Tyler, we're a few episodes into it now, and it's come to my attention that we haven't chatted enough about golf. So we got to give the people what they want.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it's funny. I think we probably are guilty of talking too much about golf in other settings. And so I'm a little disappointed in ourselves for not letting that flow over to this arena.
Well, it's as good a time as any. And I actually think it's kind of fun, right? Like there's a lot of parallels you can draw from golf and how you approach the game to financial planning and how you approach putting together financial plans. So, um, what do you think that you do out there on the golf course applies to when you're advising clients?
I don't know if there's any parallels between throwing clubs on the second hole. But if that was one, then I'd be able to draw a lot. No, I think, one of the things that jumps out to me is, having grown up playing a little bit of golf, but not really ever in a competitive setting, and then getting into it, as a lot of us do, in college, coming out of college, was, recognizing, like any sport, the need to have someone that knows what they're doing in your corner is very high, especially for something as technical as a golf swing. And so, I know working with coaches and PGA professionals, like the PGA teaching professionals, I should clarify. Unfortunately, I don't get to hang out with the playing pros very often, but getting on with a teaching professional and learning how to swing the golf club, I think has been a huge part of my game. And that's the first parallel in my mind that I draw to financial planning is there's a lot of people that generally know what they're doing when it comes to managing their finances. And that's great. That's a phenomenal place to start. But it doesn't hurt to have somebody who specializes in financial planning, investment management, to take a look at what you have going on. And so I feel like that's kind of I don't know if that's low hanging fruit, but that's one that jumps out at me right away. Is there anything that you feel like you see that's a parallel?
Yeah, well, you got 14 clubs in the bag, and they're all used for different purposes. And so having the right tool for the job like makes a huge difference in golf, right? I mean, chipping up onto the green, we're going to use, lob wedge, sand wedge, gap wedge, or are we going to hit like kind of a bump and run, right? Like, kind of you want it to roll out a little bit more. Um, Kind of like, similarly, there's a lot of different investments that we can recommend to people that do different things, right? Are we short term? Is it down payment for a house that we're going to be buying like this year or next year? Is it kind of a medium interim goal, 5 to 10 years, or is it something like retirement where it's, I mean, for some of us, it's 20, 30 years into the future. And, those recommendations become wildly different depending upon what situation you're approaching. Similarly to like when you've got a golf shot, what's, take inventory, survey everything, make sure you got the right tool for the job.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that kind of leads into one of the other ones I was thinking of, which is, every hole is different, right? And so, most people want a rip driver on the par five. I fall into that category. Probably not rip and driver on the 140-yard par three. Um, and so really the way that I draw that to the financial planning world is two ways. Number one, as a individual, planning for your future, what your strategy is and the goals that you have when you're 25 are infinitely different than the goals that you have when you're 55. But then as a financial advisor, so looking at it from my perspective, every client's so much different. Even two 25-year-olds or two 35-year-olds. I mean, one of the special things about what we get to do is not only help people achieve their goals, but really get an understanding of what makes those people tick. What do they want to achieve? It's a lot of fun for me to get in front of a couple that wants to buy a boat when they're 55 and travel around the Pacific Northwest, and then the next people you run into, they're like, oh, heck no, we're moving to Arizona and we're going to live in the 100-degree weather for, you know, our retirement. And it's enjoyable for me to get to see all of that. It's so much like how you're playing a different golf shot, a different hole, everything's different when you're on the golf course. I feel like as a financial advisor or even just as an individual, your goals change, and the different clients we work with have different goals. And it's what makes it a rewarding career, but it's also, um, something you got to pay attention to.
Yeah, I think that kind of loans itself to good course management, right? Like you were saying, you want
Yeah.
to rip driver all the time. Um, but even, as you're walking through, maybe playing a couple of holes, right? Like, oh, I had a bad drive. Like, this is the outcome now. Like, okay, I can't go with plan A where it's like, oh man, it'd be nice to, bomb at 300 and just have like a nice little wedge in. Um,
Yeah.
in,
The HVAC went out.
yeah, exactly. It's like,
Now
oh,
we got to
okay, yeah,
replenish the emergency
yeah.
fund.
And, having, I mean, you can kind of like, I think there's multiple ways to approach this. Like, okay, are we the golfers, or is it like, man, your financial advisor is your caddy and they're helping you like through some of these shots? But I think it's pretty close to that. Like, have you ever played golf with somebody who knows you, knows your swing well, knows your tendencies, and then like coaches you, caddies you through things? Like, it can make a difference. I think I remember you said
Oh yeah.
what you played a round of Gamble Sands, and you had a really good caddy, and it felt like it took like 4 strokes off your game, even though you don't really know that course that well. Like,
Yeah. No, that's the course management side of it is, the swing I had wasn't any different. It wasn't like the caddies telling me how to swing the club, but when you show up to something new, like a new golf course, it helps to have a guy that walks the course 5, 6 times a week and is telling people how to read the greens, telling them where to miss. It is massively helpful. I think Jordan Spieth's caddy was a Chambers Bay local. He was like a math teacher, and Spieth had him at the 2015 U.S. Open when he played Chambers Bay. And I'm like, I find it hard to believe that that was not an
yeah,
advantage. Having a little bit of extra local knowledge, somebody who's walked the course, done the track 1,000 times. And so, yeah, no, I think it makes a big difference. And yeah, it'd be fun to say that we're always the caddy. Sometimes I like to put myself in as the golfer too, but I do think having somebody that you can go to and ask questions, for most people, even if they have good financial fundamentals, they're going to run into a handful of things throughout their lifetime, be it, a pension option or when to take Social Security. Like the reality of it is people don't see that every day. They see it once in their entire life. We see it every day. And so in that case, yeah, we're the caddy that's walked the course 100 times, and hopefully we can help them make an informed decision.
yeah, and put it into perspective, and you know optimize everything that people are bringing to the table, just by having all of that background knowledge. So Moose is dreaming behind me and getting pretty loud.
I cannot tell you how badly I wish you weren't wearing headphones so I could be like, "Hey, Moose," try to get him to pop up.
No, he loves his naps. But do you have any others that you want to talk about?
You know, I think that the number one thing that because it just kind of puts a smile on my face is everybody's heard drive for show, putt for dough. And there's a saying like that in everything. And we touched on this in the first episode. And I think most sound financial advisors would agree with us that, you know, the flashy investments, they're fun, they're exciting, but it's more of a gamble than it is an investment. The hot stock tip or whatever it might be. And so that's the driving for show. It might look shiny on the outside, but when it comes to achieving what matters to most people, right? Achieving their lifetime goals, you're putting for dough. And so that's where having a sound financial plan, a sound, investment strategy, is really what it comes down to. So I challenge you to come up with a good saying like drive for show, putt for dough for
For
financial advising. We'll have to come back with that on another episode because I can't think of anything. I'm not that quick. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
I've got actually a sticky note here on my computer, but it's short term boring, long term exciting. You know, um,
Oh,
because really that's what it is, and that's part of our job is to like, you know, imprint that on people that just periodically checking your statement, right? Watching it grow from quarter to quarter, or as you're, making contributions to your account, like, they're just marginal, right? Pretty boring, pretty basic, but it's over that 5, 10, 15, 20, 25-year time frame that you really start to see the true growth. You start to see the compounding, all of those things that come through. um Drive for show, putt for dough. I mean, it all comes back again, probably a recurring theme on this. It's just doing the fundamentals correctly, and mastering those before you progress. And I think humans were just wired to have that, like, man, we want that flashy, that exciting thing. And a lot of financial media, what you read, like, yeah, they capitalize on that because it draws eyes, it gets attention. And is it the best thing for somebody? I mean, that you got to take a full 360 like degree or layout inventory of everything before you can really make that recommendation. But
No, I totally agree. I think, as much fun as it is to hit the ball a mile or, pick the right stock, and it does happen. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible to pick a good stock that ends up being a high flyer. Um, but it's not what's going to set you up to achieve what you want to achieve in life. And sometimes it sucks to have to be the person that is boring by some definitions. But we have responsibility to our clients, responsibility to ourselves and our families to do what's right for our goals. And I think that is exciting. So I kind of like the short-term boring, long-term exciting. I'll have to write that down.
I went to a ribbon cutting yesterday and was talking to a guy, and he's like, "Oh, hey, tell me about your business. Tell me what sets you apart, right? Like, in the wealth management space." And the first thing that I told him was like, "Well, the investment management, granted, like, academic based, we've done a lot of research into what's going to be the best portfolio makeup for our clients. But usually, what I ended up saying just flatly was it's pretty boring, and if somebody is in an exciting investment strategy, usually it's probably not the best for the long term, right? Because there's a lot of ins and outs jumping around. Last episode we touched on timing, trying to time the market, and it's just crazy how it's just so counterproductive. But humans love it, right? We've got this like activity bias. Like if something happens, like,
Oh yeah.
if there's an input, man, there's got to be an output. We got to do something. We got to change it. So I think just to kind of hammer that point home.
All right. Well, I think we're trying to keep these things short and sweet. So unless you
You
have
feel
anything
good?
else,
This is
I'm ready to sign off. I feel pretty good. We've like covered a lot in a short amount of time.
any more golf talk? We'll end it here and we'll talk about
Um,
golf after.
yeah, that's probably fair.
Perfect. Well, all right, Tyler. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. It was good. We were able to weave a little bit of golf into financial planning. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
us financial
Now we just got to
advisors.
make it not forced going forward.
Yeah, I know. We forced it in there pretty hard. But thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you later. This is The Long Game. I'm Brent Schafer. Tyler Pearson. See ya.
All right, Cash. Killed it.
Killed it.